SBR Forum's Punters is brought to you by Bookmaker.
We are previewing Week 5 in the NFL here at SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We're talking with Robert Ferringo from Doc Sports. And Robert, the second game that you're going to talk about is Seattle at Carolina. This one is to my eye at least, a little bit tougher of a spread than the first one we talked about, which was a Cincinnati game. Carolina is a 3-point home favorite. The total is 43.5. Seattle, of course, has a very impressive, very strong defense. Their offense, though, is suspect, and Russell Wilson's kind of just like not getting it done on offense. They don't pass that much as it is, and they're not very effective when they do. So it's kind of hard to bet on Seattle because they have such a questionable offense, but it's also a little bit scary to bet against them because they do have such an effective defense. Still, though, I guess I would take Carolina -3 if I had to, but I guess the whole question really is how much will Wilson be able to bounce back from this game, and I don't have a good read on it. What do you think about these lines?
Yeah, this was one of those games that when you offered me up some options early in the week, I was kind of excited about it. I liked Carolina a little bit. I thought it was an interesting game to handicap. But the more I kind of dug into it, the more I'm kind of pushing back and pushing away from this game. From Carolina's perspective, they were the sexy team coming into the season.
Yeah.
Them, Kansas City, and Buffalo were kind of everybody's sleeper.
Especially Cam Newton. He is really cute.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I said especially Cam Newton, who's just really, really cute just on his own.
I am going to let all of your listeners let that one percolate a little bit.
No,
and in the meantime, I'm going to talk about how terrible Carolina's defense.
Oh, okay. All right.
They're basically playing without a back seven. Their linebackers are severely underperforming. They just don't have any talent in the secondary. So from that kind of strategic standpoint, I think that this is a really good matchup for Russell Wilson. Carolina is also off two very emotionally draining losses. Again, they got humiliated on Monday Night Football against the Giants, and they really gave that game away against a division rival in Atlanta. So again, early in the week, I'm looking at Carolina. They have the worst record, and they are favored against a team with a better record. That's usually a red flag to me as a handicapper that, the team with the worst record is ready for a breakout performance. But, again, this is where you kind of have to play psychologist with Carolina is what's going to be their focus in this game? Are they going to look at this as a chance to turn their season around, or are they just not as good as everyone thought, which is the way I'm kind of leaning? Seattle is a tough team to bet on against the road. They're 17-37-2 against the spread on the road. They have been atrocious. They've just been a train wreck away from home over about the last 8 years. But one big thing about this game that might be a little bit underlooked is the fact that it's a 4 o'clock start. Normally you have those West Coast teams coming east for those 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific time starts, and that's just been a death knell for the West Coast teams over the last 10 years. It's a huge disadvantage to them because of their body clocks, right? Well, this game is a 4 p.m. start, so you kind of throw that one out the window. You can't completely overlook Seattle's terrible road performances over the last several years, but they have an outstanding defense ranked number 2 in the NFL. They run the ball. They have a quarterback who, while maybe isn't playing exceptionally well, he's not making mistakes, and he's making plays with his feet against a team that doesn't defend the pass really well. 70% of the action is coming in on the home team here. I still think Carolina is a little bit overvalued. So this might be one to just sit back and watch, but if I had to take a play on it, I think I would take the points with Seattle.
Really? Yeah, I'm definitely going to pass on it in terms of the side. What do you think about maybe the total, 43.5? I mean, since, Seattle does run so much and they do have such an effective defense, and, Carolina did play against Tampa Bay, and that game went to 26. They do have the capability of playing low-scoring games. What do you think about maybe a bet on the under, 43.5, or you think that's too low of a total?
I think it's too low of a total.
Yeah.
I actually really like the over in this game. Watching that Seattle-St. Louis game last week, that was one that should have went over. I believe there were over 600 yards of total offense, and there were 6 field goals in that game. St. Louis, which doesn't have a high-powered offense, was kind of moving the ball at will in between the 20s. They just couldn't punch it in. Same thing with Green Bay. Green Bay moved the ball relatively well. They just couldn't find the end zone in that Monday Night Football game. So Seattle's defense is spectacular. Their secondary might be the best in football. So I don't think that they're overvalued from that standpoint. But Carolina's offense can put points up on the board against anybody, and Carolina can't stop anybody. So I'm expecting a little bit of a regression after, again, I think Seattle's yards per point in the Seattle-St. Louis game was around 20 last week. So I'm looking for a little bit of regression there. I think we see some points, and I think that this one might sneak over. I thought that total was going to come in around 46, so there's a little bit built-in value there.
All right, interesting insights. Robert Ferringo from DocSports.com. Thanks for doing these previews with us.